Hello and welcome, and in today's video I'm going to share with you the top 10 most bang for your buck Ark Tames. So without further ado, let's just get straight into it. First up, in at number 10, we have got the Rex, and this creature definitely does deserve to be here for so many reasons. Partly just because it's just a very well-rounded carnivore, and also partly because now on ASA, this thing is so ridiculously easy to tame. Like, honestly, it is now like probably one of the easiest tames in the game with that new baby feature, as it's so easy to kill a Rex. It's a lot harder to knock one out, and if it's got a corresponding baby along with it, obviously you might have to kill 2 Rexes, but still, it's really not going to be that bad. And sometimes you can just find a Rex lying around, and all you have to do is press a button, and then boom, like that, you've got yourself a Rex. And the saddles really aren't that expensive, and they can be found in drops all over the place, so you basically have to put no effort into tame one of these things, even on normal Ark as well. Yes, those saddles are going to be harder to find because the drops are obviously a lot less OP, depending on obviously like what your server's like or what your single player's like, but on default they tend to be a lot less OP. And obviously that baby taming feature is not there, but still you can get loads of bang for your buck out of the Rex in both versions of Ark, especially in ASA, for all of those reasons which I have just given. So the Rex definitely is deserving of this number 10 spot. Next up, we have got the Crystal Wyvern, and this creature is here. It's just so easy to tame, and yes, it is capped behind a level 65, and you do have to knock out another Crystal Wyvern to get that Primal Crystal, but it really is not that bad. And for the creature that you get, I don't really get why more people don't talk about these creatures. I just feel like you get so much for so little, and you could kind of talk about the normal Wyvern in this way as well, but I would counteract that a bit, as also the tame method is significantly harder than with a creature like this. So I think it is definitely deserving of that spot just because of how easy this thing's tame method is. I know it could be more simple because getting that Primal Crystal can be a little bit of a challenge, although I've never really struggled with it, and the level 65 is a little bit of a pain, but there isn't too much of an issue in today's Ark because a note run is very easily achievable for any level of play. You just need to know where the notes are, and that is really simply it. It's so simple and so trivial that this creature really has to be on the list, and it is definitely deserving of this spot. I really think you can just get so much out of the Crystal Wyvern, and it's so easy to tame. It really does deserve to be on this spot in this, because it's just such a good, well-rounded flyer. You get so much out of it in the damage department, the speed department, maybe not in the turning circle department, but there's so much use out of this creature. Next up, we have got the Beals, and this is going to be your go-to creature for getting any kind of cementing paste, and they are so easy to tame. Like, honestly, one of the easiest tames in the game by far. Very simple knockout, and you're going to have no issue with it. The only real issue is the biome it spawns in. It's the swamp, and can be a little bit annoying, but you're just going to get so much cementing paste out of these things, and also you're just going to have a really great underwater creature. It is really worth investing in one of these things and getting yourself one and using it for that cementing paste gathering, and just using it as a general creature. It's so nice, and it's got so many well-known uses. It's just people don't really use it enough, and it's so easy to tame. It is very deserving of this spot on the list, and I don't get why more people don't talk about it. But, you know, I did used to be one of those people back in the days, but nowadays I really do respect the Beals, and I love all of its uses, and I really hope that at some point in the future of your Ark playing, if you don't already, you tame yourself a Beals or Bufo. You will definitely not regret getting one. Next up, we have got the Mewing, and this is just one of those creatures where it is just so good for doing any kind of traveling around the map, and it is ridiculously easy to trap and then just a knockout tame. Very trivial and very simple, and you're going to have no issues with taming this thing whatsoever, as long as you just take that small minor step of preparation to actually taming one of these things. And once you have one, you're going to have yourself a really great time with this extremely fast traveling mount that also acts as a portable feeding trough. So for you breeding enthusiasts out there, you also do have a great creature for you, which is going to really level up your Ark playing if you do not have one already. But to everyone else out there who doesn't really do a lot of breeding, you can still use this thing as an insanely fast travel mount. They travel at ripping speeds, and it's so OP, and in some ways you could say even game breaking at how you can get these things at such an early level. It's like it's even pre-20, I think it's level 19 when you unlock the saddle for this thing. Either way, it is very, very early on, and I cannot recommend a Mewing highly enough. Really, at some point, get yourself one of these creatures. You will definitely not regret getting one. Now, the Thyla is up next, and I think this is pretty trivial to tame. I know I've said that word a lot, and I've been throwing it around. But this isn't very difficult to trap, and the knockout tame, again, very easy. Just have to take the necessary precautions, and that goes for most things. Usually, tames will be difficult just because you don't spend that small amount of time preparing, but sometimes it can also just be the tame is horrible to do, and that's not the case for the Thyla whatsoever. And with the amount of utility you can get out of this creature, it is a no-brainer, and everyone really should be taming one of these things at some point in their Ark playing. Like, it's, again, just, it's a no-brainer. You would get one of these things, and then they deal the bleed ability, so you can really take out things insanely quickly. They can climb any kind of wall or vertical surface, or really any surface pretty much, as long as it's not over 90 degrees, which can be a little bit of an issue in ASA actually, as the terrain is quite buggy in places and often goes a lot steeper than 90 degrees, so you always do want to be careful. But I have managed to ram a Carno up a mountain before, so I'm sure there are loads of ways of getting around everything, but they do get stuck quite a lot in comparison to just normal Ark, I'm going to say ASE. Still kind of weird that we're calling it that, but it does make sense. ASA is not in the best state right now, but we'll see what happens with the Center and Scorched, and I will rejudge my judgments then. Also, these creatures, if you haven't noticed, just really do excel in their ability, not just because they can climb any kind of wall or vertical surface, it's just because they have a lot of speed, they can jump around, and they're very agile in their movement, and that bleed ability just really does help out because they can deal even more damage to creatures and just really get everything done, because it's nice to have a creature which can travel at such insane speeds and also absolutely demolish everything in its path as well. The Thyla is definitely a big recommendation of mine, especially considering it spawns on the island, and it is extremely accessible to every single Ark player out there. Next up, at number 5, we have got the Bionics, and I'm putting this thing higher than the Thyla, which some people might say, oh, why are you doing that? Well, this thing is such an insane caving creature. The Thyla is simply too wide in a lot of cases to fit into some caves, and although yes, it can be good and cryopods exist and all of that, still go back to the Bionics, and the Bionics is pretty much the same difficulty to tame, and I feel like you get a lot more use out of it because it's also a really great underwater creature for doing all this underwater caves as well, something which the Thyla really does not excel at. It can also stun creatures up to the size of a Megalodon underwater, which you'll see a little bit later, and it still has that jumping ability that the Thyla has. Obviously, it can't climb any kind of wall or vertical surface, but you know, it's not really going to be used for traveling, and I would say, I'm stumbling over my words here, that doing caves is more important than traveling around the map, because yes, exploring will be fun and transporting goods around the map is, like, you could say essential in ways. Also doing the caves is essential, and in some ways, like, well, it just is essential. There's no really getting around it unless you get someone else to do all the caves for you, but you know, that's probably not going to happen, and it's a bit of an unnecessary point. But the Bionics really is super easy to tame, and you'll get so much use out of it. It is a no-brainer to tame. Next up, we have got the Blood Stalker, and this creature is here because it's the best underwater creature in my opinion, and although maybe a little bit of a challenge to tame, the use I get out of this creature is so high. I have to put it on this list, but you know, it does deserve a little bit of a setback, which is why it's not getting in the top 3 for its tame method, because it can be pretty annoying a lot of the time, especially considering the biome and considering how actually annoying it is to get all of those blood bags. But you can use something like the Deznomicon as well, and that will definitely help you out. But you can just get so much use for underwater travel out of this creature. It really does need to be on this list, and it's such a great traveling mount as well. Again, it really does hone in on this being such a great creature for all things traveling, and it's pretty decent at combat as well, and you kind of get a free awesome spyglass mod essentially on just normal Ark, and you get that on ASA as well. Obviously that mod is free, but it's not accessible to all players out there, and you get that with this creature. The only real downside obviously being that it does respawn only on Genesis Part 1 and Genesis Part 2, so it is not available in ASA at the moment. Also, do tell me if I got the map's wrong on that one, because it might be on more or it might not be on more. So comment down below if I did actually miss a map, because you know I do use you sometimes to expand my Ark knowledge, and as far as I'm concerned, they're only on Gen 1 and Gen 2, but you know, they might be on Field or something like that. But you know, I'm not really knowledgeable on that map because I've hardly even played any of it. Some people might be shocked to hear that, but that's me on my fielder status. Either way, Stalker, really great creature. Would definitely advise to tame one if you can. In number 3, we have got the Deznomicon, and this does just get a little bit of a level up over the Stalker because it makes tons of blood bags, like absolute blood bag farm, can go invisible in the night, and also has Sanguine Elixir, which is an absolute game changer for PvE players alike, and it would be PvP players as well. Just because I do a lot of taming, it really is a huge game changer to me, and taming a low level one really is not that difficult, and then from there taming a really high level one really is not that bad. You can farm blood bags, but firstly you can just tame a really low level one which basically takes any blood bags, and then boom, like that. You don't even need to worry about effectiveness and all of that. Just tame one, get a saddle for it, and ride around on it and farm those blood bags, and then boom, you can tame yourself a really high level one next, and then just ditch that low level one. You're not really going to need it anymore. Well, keep it as a backup, of course, because you never know, some really horrible stuff can happen when you're out exploring. Always keep some backup flyers in your base, you know, just very common thing to do, and a lot of people don't do it, so make sure you do that. Ark tips, guys. Next up, we have got the Deinonychus, and this creature is just so easy to tame. You just steal that egg and then raise it. I know it does maybe seem like a little bit difficult, because like raiding wyvern trenches is extremely difficult, but you can really do this easily. They're not in any kind of trench, they're pretty much just out in the open in the chocolate biome, and as long as you can get away with something, you can maybe even do it with a pteranodon, or you don't even need a pteranodon and you can just leg it, or you know, just spend a life and then get your body back. So just kind of run far enough away. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. Either way, stealing this X is not the hardest thing which you'll encounter in the world, and once you tame one, you're going to have yourself an ultimate boss creature dealing tons and tons of damage. It really is a no-brainer to get one of these things, and they also deal bleed damage to bosses as well, which as far as I'm concerned, no other creature does. They also have insane mobility as well, and they take no full damage. They have the pack buff, which is a nice neat ability, and as you can see, they really do travel at ripping speed, and you know, that obviously makes them a really great traveling mount. And with that added no full damage, it really takes away a lot of inconvenience from having to dismount just before you hit the ground to not take any full damage. These things can also kind of parkour up walls as well, which does hugely benefit them in the mobility. Obviously they don't do it quite as elegantly as a Thyla, essentially just jumping up, and it does take a little bit more effort to get that working, and because it's a little bit more finicky, at least for me it was when I first started using these things. But once you get over that small hurdle, you really are going to enjoy these creatures way more than a creature like the Thyla, and they're easier to tame, and you can just get so much more use out of them. And in number 1, we've got the RG, and this is just the king of productivity. Extremely easy to tame with a very simple wooden trap, just requiring a few trank arrows to knock out. Well, more than a few, but it really is not that many. And obviously the saddle is unlocked in the late 60s, but still, that really isn't too much of a hindrance with a note run, and they are just too good to miss, especially considering they spawn on the island. They're accessible to everyone out there. Their saddle acts as a portable smithy, so if you break any metal tools along your journey, or metal gear, especially if you're going caving, you can easily just repair it without having to head all the way back to base, because sometimes that can be an absolute pain and it will just waste your time, whereas with this creature you can be quick, convenient and efficient. Also, they hold a Dodic or an Anki. You can use them to gather any kind of metal, flint, rock or stone. Rock and stone are the same thing, aren't they? Stone, it's not called rock in this game. What's happening to me? Either way, you can get tons of that as well, and then with the weight reduction on things like metal, crystal and obsidian on the RG, you can take tons of those resources back to your base, and you don't have to mess around with things like the Pteranodon having extremely low weight stats. Their stamina is also really great and can carry them over huge distances. Also, they do have a nice neat little regen buff as well, which will aid you in any kind of combat scenario, probably after the combat's finished, as you can just quickly heal up like that. And also, on top of this, they can carry an extra small creature in their mouth as well. Don't really know why you do it, but it is a nice neat feature. But anyway, that is the end of today's video, and I really hope that you all enjoyed, as I did definitely enjoy making it. As always, comment down below what is the most bang for the buck Ark Tame, and if you didn't agree, put your 10 in the comments below, and I will see you all later.